Well, avoid money market fund if the only money that you have is 20,000. For example, I'm using 20,000 as an example. By the way, this can even apply if maybe let's say you have like 50,000 with you and it happens to be the only cash that you have. People don't understand these two different things. We can have two individuals here, okay? Here we have an individual, let's call this guy Ken, and here we have another individual, and let's call this guy Jack. Now, Ken and Jack are two individuals, and both of them, they have 20K, and this one 20K. Are we together? Now, this Ken here doesn't have a job. Doesn't have a what? Doesn't have a job, okay? This is the only cash that Ken has. The only cash that Ken that Ken has. Are we together? There is no job, meaning there is no cash flow expected. There is no income expected from this individual. And this Jack here, he has 20K, but he has a job somewhere. He has a job somewhere. Meaning Jack is expecting some income, okay? But this guy is no income. Are we together? And these two guys approach a financial advisor. Now, here is a financial advisor. And then this financial advisor, the Jack can ask the financial advisor, what do I do with my 20,000? I hear you talking about money market fund. By the way, you know what? I don't have any other cash. This is the only money that I have, and I would like to invest it so that I can be able to pay my bills, I can be able to eat, I can be able to do all those kind of things. So I would like you to guide me on how to invest in that money market fund because it's so good, sounds so good for me, and I love it. Okay? And the same approach from the Jack tells the financial advisor the same. Hey, I would like to take my 20K that I have in savings, throw it in a money market fund. And by the way, I'm employed. I usually have a job and I can able to save at least each and every month. I have 5K that I can be able to invest in that money market fund. You know why? Because my goal is to have this 20K accumulated in that place where it is earning interest. And ultimately, one day, I might actually decide to get into other bigger investments such as bills, bonds, stocks, or maybe perhaps start a business and something like that. So these are two different individuals approaching a financial advisor with two different problems, but with equal amount of money at a different state in terms of a job. Now, if you approach anybody asking you that and then they tell you, okay, this is how you join money market for probably this guy might actually be a quack. The only way you identify a professional financial advisor is when somebody, first of all, takes you a journey of understanding who you are, where you are going, and why you are going there. Well, the why might not be so necessary, but times it's okay if you can share that. Now, when once understand where you are and the situation, we say the financial health of viewers, then they can be able to advise you appropriately. And this is where now this video comes in. We are dealing with an individual who happens to be our, our figure here called Ken. Now, with the Ken's concept, it is unadvisable to get into a money market fund because it does not work for this gentleman here. It doesn't work. And the people confuse about two things. You might actually not be suffering from an investment. You're suffering from an income. People tend to think you're suffering from an investment or probably you are poor because you have not invested. No, you are having financial difficulties because you don't have a reliable source of income. And that is what you're supposed to focus on. If I tell this individual, take the 20K, throw it in a money market fund, this money won't be able to pay for her bills or his bills. It cannot be able to cater for bills because first of all, when it comes to investments, and I want you to understand this correctly, when it comes to investment such as a money market fund, they usually have a low interest or low income because they have low risks. Anything that has low risks usually have low income. So what happens if you tell this guy to get his money into a money market fund? You've lost this guy. That is not what he's looking for. The guy is suffering from an income because he told you, I don't have a job and I would like to use this what I have to make sure that at least I can pay my bills as soon as possible, if possible, even starting from tomorrow. The only thing you tell this guy to do, okay, fine. Where do you come from? The environment that you come from, how does it look like? What is that particular problem can you identify? Don't talk about what business can you start because that is the simplest. That is how people approach somebody. Hey, what business can I start? That is not the way to ask the question. The appropriate way to ask that question is what problem can I identify in my place, or what are the concepts or what are the ways of identifying a problem in my area that can be solved with 20K and of course get a reward out of that, because businesses solve problems. Okay, businesses Okay, this is the first initial concept of the business. Business is not there to make you money. Business is there to solve problems, and the solutions that you offer to the problems are the ones that pays you money. It's not the business. You get what I'm saying? And that's why I always tell people, be careful when you follow your passion when starting a business, because passion in most cases leads to comfort. And the comfort, of course, when you get disturbed, you tend up to actually give up and something like that. But some people actually have some resilience. But the point is, when you have this amount of money, make sure that you concentrate on business. This one, I know it has high risks, but you don't have any otherwise. This is when we say you have to take or hold the bull by its horn. So you get yourself into the business area. This is where you now zoom in into where you come from. Okay, I come from a residential area. We quite have a number of people in this particular area. And what I've identified is, you know what, this amount of money, of course, you can't start a big business, but you can actually venture into something like fruit selling. You can venture into vegetable selling. You can venture into selling some eggs, at the evening. You can buy yourself an umbrella, you sit somewhere, and then people are passing by, you can sell them eggs. In Africa, I mean, maybe probably in the Western countries, we may not do this, but here in Africa, you can actually do that. You can even decide to do some door-to-door, maybe hawking of some different products that, you get what I'm saying. You look for something that you can actually get into the Mutumba business. Mutumba business is actually second-hand clothing. You can actually show up to these big markets and get yourself early in the morning, get some few units or pieces, and then you can actually go out there and you can be able to sell them and make some cash out there. This guy is suffering from cash flow. So when you're suffering from cash flow, it's not the time to look for investment. It's like going and telling somebody who is suffering from eating, you tell them to save. What are they even saving? See, you can't save when you're not even eating in the first place. So it starts with you solving the basic things, then goes to the next level of now thinking of, because what happens, there is also the level or the hierarchy of priority of things. We start with the basics. Somebody who is suffering from the basics, for example, you can't go to a country where say people are fighting, and then you're telling them to save. I mean, the first thing that they're looking for, of course, is food. The second thing is peace. So you have to know what are their priorities before you start telling them this and that. And that's why I tell people, if someone is suffering from food, the basics of the basics, then that is an individual who even need help. Not only by telling them the financial literacy, but also even giving them that what they need. And as much as you're educating them, when they get better, this is what they're supposed to do. Now, what happens in this kind of a case scenario, it is good to make sure that at least you understand these kind of concept. Because I see people rushing into a money market fund, and then when they realize how much this money is making them, it can't even buy, let's say, a packet of milk in a day. They kind of get frustrated because you are misadvised. You don't know exactly what you're getting yourself into. So in this case scenario, this guy can get into a business. Forget about money market fund. That's why I said avoid money market fund if this is ultimately the money that you have. You don't have any other source of income. But this guy can get into that. Why? This money, if they throw it in a money market fund, it doesn't necessarily make this guy a lot of money. But at least this money cumulatively, pumping in that extra 5K coming in, this guy can actually do something as the time goes by. So when you differentiate, when you understand this concept, when you know what goes where and why, then that can actually be used to know which one you need at this particular time as you take yourself to the next level. This maybe can go hand in hand with another concept. You find somebody with, say 50K, and this guy is asking you, how do I get into a treasury bond? And for me, I don't really see as wise to get into a treasury bond with 50,000 for put that money fixed somewhere for the next 13 years. I would just say, first of all, look for the investment that can help you to accumulate this money. For example, mutual funds, fixed investment fund, and such. Or maybe you can get yourself into stocks, or maybe get yourself into a business whereby you can be able to accumulate this money, raise it to a substantive amount, then you can empty that to a little bit bigger. For example, if you take that 50K, throw it in a treasury bond for the next 13 years, it means that your 50,000 is tied up for the next 13 years. Probably, I should advocate that just quite have a little bit of a good amount of money before getting yourself, unless maybe you're testing the market, but have a little bit of a substantive amount of money before getting yourself into some of these investments. Anyway, all this information, you can only get it if you contact me at a personal level. That way I can be able to tailor down something that works for you specifically. This is Good Joseph. That's my number. Take it up, shoot me a call. Let's talk business. For now, it's a goodbye. See you in the next one.